Okay, Programming 11. So we're going to be building this animation. I'm going to do some of it with you to help you get started because it is, sometimes a tricky thing to begin this. But I will be at some point kind of leaving off and saying, okay, now you try. So we'll start with just setting up our space. So I like to put in the comments for these things. So I'll put in my name. I don't have a block. I have many blocks, but I'll just choose 1A. And today's date, I don't even know. Is it the 18th? I'm not too sure. But whenever it is, you might be watching this in quarter two. I don't know, or three or four. So it's whatever day you are in. So the next step is to sort of set up a bit of spaces in our program. We're discovering that there's sort of different regions of our program. So we have sort of our void set up. Oops, sorry, my mouse pointer is in the way. And I like to just put a little um, end setup comment. And I think I'm going to make a little bit like extra line here just to like make it really clear. I think I'm going to put a comment at the top too, just to like make it really clear that the code for setup has to go in this space here. And then outside of this, I'm going to put void draw. And again, I'm just going to, well, I guess I could do that too. Different people like to, I'm using the equal sign to mark this up, but it's not, you could use whatever symbol you want. Tilde is a nice one. But I find this is very much shows up quite clearly. And I'm going to just kind of spread these out a bit. So I can see here's clearly where the draw begins and ends. Here's clearly where the setup begins and ends. And then also there should be a region up here for variables. So declaring our variables, things like our x coordinates and such that we were using in the past. And I won't put the end there. I don't know. Maybe you could. Doesn't matter if you want to put a little end there. So this shows we have kind of three unique regions, right? We have the variable declaration region, we have the setup region, and we have the draw region. So you should be careful that nothing goes outside of this code. If you end up putting some code sort of in between the functions or outside of the functions, then you can get into trouble. So for example, if I put a fill here, fill 0, it says some weird message, like return type for this method is missing. And it looks good, right? There's nothing wrong with this. It's just, it's in the no man's land. it's in a place that it cannot be. So you can declare variables here. You can write code in here, and you can write code in here, but not outside. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start the setup. I'm going to make our animation screen, and I'm going to use size 800 by 600. So 800 wide, 600 tall. And I'm just going to run that to make sure it's working. And voila, that's right. I'm glad it worked. Next step is I'm going to have to, I guess, draw some stuff on the screen. And what I'd like to do with you is just the background mountains. So I'm going to get some colors ready to go. And I'm going to do background for the sky. And so I'll just make a comment that this is going to be the sky here. I'm not sure what that color is, so let's go find out. I'm going to go to Tools, Color Selector, and pick a nice blue for our sky. I'm not too sure what a good blue is. I'm going to pick that one. So it's 173, and 255. Awesome. And then for our hills, and I'm going to do background hills. You're going to do foreground hills. And we're going to ground as well, I guess. So for our background hills, what color is that going to be? Green, I guess. We had green. And I'm not sure exactly what shade of green was in the animation. I'll just choose this one. You can choose a different one if you prefer. So we'll do a fill for our ellipses. 3, 255, 93. Sure. And for the ground, it was like a yellowy color, right? But whatever. I don't really care what color your ground is. It's so bright. Gonna have to probably adjust these things a bit. Actually, I can't remember what the color was. Was it yellow? Mm, who cares? It's gonna be this bright, bright yellow. Fill 255, 249, and 72. Okay, so I got some colors down. And now I'm going to draw my ellipses and rectangles. So the ground is just a big old rectangle, and the ellipses are the background hills. So I'll draw in 3 ellipses. I want them to be pretty big, I guess. So let's see. I guess I'm going to put first one at 0, comma. So I guess I want to divide the screen into thirds. So I'll put it at 200. So it'll be 2/3 of the way down. No, wait, that's not right. 400 will be 2/3 of the way down the screen. And I'll make it 400 by 400. And I don't even know. I'm too tired right now. Let's find out if that's correct. Do I get a circle that's sort of at the bottom area? Yeah, that looks good. I'm going to cover half of this, right? There's going to be a ground that's going to cover that up. That's a good place to put it. So 0, 400. The next ellipse, also green. Instead of 0, 400, I want to move it over 400. So I'm going to put it at 400, 400. And it's 400 wide and 400 tall. So I should put it right beside it. That's great. We have the second one. Hey, what are the coordinates for the third one? Well, we're going to go all the way to the end. So I'm going to have ellipse 800, 400, 400, 400. So I'll have my 3 ellipse. Pow, pow, pow. Looks good. And I got to draw my ground now. So I'll put in that rectangle for, I guess it's going to be basically starting at the same coordinates as this one, 0, 400. And its width is going to be as wide as the screen, so 800. And its height is going to be 200. So that's the dimensions of that. Hey, there we go. So we got the yellow ground. We have the hills. Okay, so now we're going to make the hills move. So we're going to have to create some variables to describe the coordinates of each of these hills. And then we're going to be putting them in here. We're going to replace the number, the hard-coded number, with the variable so that we can change it as we go. So I'm going to go up to the variables section of the program, and I'm going to make 3 variables. We're going to have, I'm not going to call it x1, x2, x3 because we're going to have lots of x coordinates. So these are the x coordinates of the background mountains, right? So I'm going to call it BG1 for background, BG2, and BG3. So there's 3 variables. And then in setup, I'm going to initialize them. So I'm going to initialize, which means give them their starting value. Background mountains. Maybe we should be calling them hills. They're not really mountains. Let's see. So the first one should start at 0. So BG1 equals 0. Next one is 400, and the next one is 800. So I'll do BG2 equals 400. BG3 equals 800. All right. Still says that's an error. Oh yeah. Hey, look at that. I spelled it wrong back here. You probably noticed that and was like, "Mr. Pelche, what are you doing?" Whoops. I'll just put the G in there that I skipped. And now I'm going to replace this ellipse with BG1. Oh, sorry, this coordinate with BG1, this one with BG2, and this one with BG3. All right. Let's run it and see. Hey, nothing's moving. But that's good. We got all this set up, ready to go to move, right? Now that our ellipses are based on variables for their x coordinates, if we change these variables, we will move the circles, which will start creating our animation. So I'm going to have this as sort of my drawing portion. You can combine it, I guess, with you can kind of group all the background hill stuff together if you want, or you could have all the drawing stuff and then the variable stuff afterwards. It's up to you. I guess it makes sense for me to put it here. So I'm going to put in like move hills. I'm calling them hills and mountains. I'm going to standardize that. Just give me 1 second. Hills. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to move the hills. So that just looks like this. BG1 equals BG1 plus, let's say 2 will be our movement speed. Does this work? I don't know. Let's see. Does the thing move? It does. Well, at least one of them moves, right? So, I know that something's going correct. It's going to move, 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 and keep on going all the way. It's gone now. It's not coming back. We'll put in those if statements in a little bit. BG2 as well will move by the same speed, and BG3 is going to move at the same speed as well. So now they all move together. They all march. Ta-da! They're marching, marching all the way off the screen. Goodbye, mountains, or hills, or whatever we're calling them. So they're gone. Okay, so that worked. Now we got to get them to wrap around again. So that's an if statement. So when they go off the screen, that means we want to bring them back to the opposite side of the screen. So when they go off the right-hand side, we want to teleport them to the left. So we want to write some kind of loop the hills part of our code. So I'm going to put in an if statement. So we'll do BG1 first. If BG1 is greater than what number? Well, that's a good question. Our screen is 800 wide, so you might think 800. And if you put that in, it actually turns out to be wrong. I just wanted to demonstrate that. So BG1 equals, so we make it equal to 0. Let's just turn off these guys. Actually, yeah, let's turn off these guys for a second. So if you run this, just to see that that only circle is moving is this one. It's moving across. And it's going to teleport, not when it's off the screen, but when it gets to the edge of the screen, because the x-coordinate is measuring the center. So it tells us, oh, the center got to the edge of the screen. We need to know when the edge of the circle, the leftmost edge, gets there. And notice also it teleports, right into view, because we're setting it to 0, so that creates its sudden appearance there. So we need to move it 1 radius length off to the side, either way. So instead of 800, we're going to move it half of its width further to be, another 200. So 1,000 will be our number, right? We took half of our radius, half of our diameter, which is our radius, add it there. To make it appear off screen when you teleport it to the left-hand side, we're going to go another 200 to the left. So that's a negative 200. This will be a little bit hard to see because of the other ellipse, but we'll see that it's going to cruise, and then it won't immediately teleport. It'll go all the way off, and then it will reappear nice and smooth. Woohoo! Looks good. And we can do the same statement for BG2 and BG3 as well. If I put in if BG2 is greater than 1,000, send it to BG negative 200. And the same thing with BG3. In fact, I'm just going to copy and paste. BG3, oops, 3, 3. And you might wonder, why are they all the same? The reason they're all the same is because whenever any of them get to the end of the screen, we're doing the same thing. The end of the screen is the same, and the beginning of the screen is the same. So these if statements are all the same. The only thing that makes these mountains different is that we start them at different places. So that's what creates a sequence of these hills moving as opposed to just one hill. But their looping position, the finish line, if you will, is the same, and the restart place is the same. So these if statements look remarkably similar to each other. I'm going to bring these hills back in. So now they're all moving and they're all looping. Let's hope. Let's see. Here we go. All right, they are moving. Yes, we did it. Woohoo! So we got this endless loop now. I don't even know which mountain's which or which hill is which because I've lost track. But this is endless kind of marching of these ellipses as they go across the screen. And this is the basic setup for it. So first of all, we draw our shapes, and we have to sort of plan out where they're going to go. And I like to do that first before I do any movement. Then once we figured out where they're supposed to go, just drawing them static, we then created variables and we initialized them to the right places. And we had already plotted that out using, our just drawing skills. And then we replaced the x coordinates with the variables, and we started moving them. We're just changing these numbers, and once we knew they moved, we also figured out how to loop them back to the beginning again. So that's a great place to start for this project. So do try this out, and I hope you do this along with me. The next step is going to be creating the foreground mountains, and I want you to do that on your own. It's a bit of a skill testing experience. So in the foreground mountains, I don't have the other program handy, do I? Yeah, I do. Okay. So notice that the foreground mountains, there's a lot more of them. So you're gonna have to plot that out. And I'm not sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think there are. Yeah, I think there's 5 circles. And then they're moving across. Actually, let me see. They're actually 6 circles. Sorry, 6 circles to make the foreground mountains. So plot those out, and then I don't know where it went. See if you can kind of go through those similar steps for creating the mountains and where you want them to go, and see if you can make them move and loop as well. The final step will be adding in the clouds and the bunny. I have a bit more to say on that. There'll be another video on how to move a group of shapes, because you can see, like, I have this, each one of these mountains or hills, whatever, is its own variable. But do I really want to make like a whole bunch of variables for the cloud? Do I really want to make a whole bunch of variables for the bunny? That seems tedious. So we'll find a way to make it so that we can move the cloud and the bunny, even though they're multiple shapes, with one variable each. And that'll be a useful thing to know. Okay, Programming 11. So I hope that helps you get started on our animation project. And I will let you go. Try those things out. Okay, bye-bye.